Ladies and gents, we are going to jump into a student interview, and I gotta say, the student that you're gonna see today, she is so humble, so humble. It's awesome to see. But yeah, she built her agency to 10K a month within 2 months of kind of going serious on our agency. She's been doing Upwork and some freelancing stuff here and there for 2 years at this point. So yeah, with no further ado. Also, I know you guys are gonna say that I look tired in the interview, and I was up last night. I got really enthralled in a book. I was actually just sat there reading Irvine's Guide to a Good Life. It's a pretty decent book on stoicism. Not as lofty as reading Aurelius, but yeah. Anyways, didn't get much sleep because I really wanted to finish that book in one sitting. So yeah, that's why I'm a little tired. Not much sleep on my side, but nonetheless, it's a kick-ass student interview. So really excited to show you guys. Ladies and gents, welcome back. Let me put this in gallery view. Ladies and gents, welcome back to another student interview. We are here today with Ray, and yeah, you have a very, very interesting background coming into agency incubator and copy-paste agency. You hit your first 10K month last month, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that must have been super cool. And yeah, just about to bring on another client, or so it seems. But yeah, I really want to, first of all, I want to talk about the sort of clients you work with, what you offer, and the way you go about your agency, because I definitely think it mirrors more closely a traditional agency. But I know that you're kind of pivoting and making some moves to streamline everything down, because that's always the obsession in copy paste agency. But yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this weird, wacky world?
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Thank you again for inviting me on. As a I'm very, very excited. Honestly, I came across agency incubator. Actually, you know what? If we backtrack, honestly, when I was like 20, I was kind of like all over the place, didn't really know what I was doing. And I actually came across, I think, your interview with Odie Productions when I was like interested in like affiliate marketing. And then I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm not going to do this. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, not right now. I guess my mentality was just not there yet. A couple of years later, you came out with more courses. And then I started seeing that ad where you get out of the car, that the one where you're like, oh, I'm 17 and I dropped out of high school. I was like,
Yeah, my 17 high school dropout.
Like sometimes I see it in my dreams. I'm like, oh my God, like every time I open a YouTube video, like I see this commercial, and I was like, okay, so it has to be a sign. Like I should definitely look into this course, because like I've always wanted to do do some form of digital marketing. So actually 2 years prior, I started to do kind of like, I learned a lot of social media management on my own, just watching YouTube videos and stuff, and then eventually taking some online courses, and that kind of dived me into trying out Upwork. And then eventually I was taking on more of my own like contracted clients with like fixed contract rates, and then building off that for the last 2 years, taking clients on and off, and then referrals, etc. And then I've always wanted to kind of open my own agency, but I never did it, because I feel like everybody has this mentality, kind of like fear of failure, right? And I was worried about failing for like a long time, until like I was kind of pushed into a corner with this whole COVID. So in a way, I do say it's a blessing in disguise that something like this did happen. And it's unfortunate. However, like it pushed me to think, like I work part-time in telecommunications. I'm also a student as well. Am I going to be guaranteed a job after this? Am I going to have like any form of income? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm 24, like I need to figure something out. And then by coincidence, a friend of mine was like, hey, are you still offering digital marketing? Like, my boss is looking for something. And by coincidence, this was a client in the cannabis industry. So that, we got on call and realized it was a much bigger project than it was going to be from just me to handle. So we ended up signing that client on just to start for like a $4,000 retainer, and we just did Facebook and Google ads. So, and
just a $4,000 retainer.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess I was like, in a way I should have been super excited, because honestly, that's actually probably one of the highest retainers I've ever signed. Usually they average around like 500 to 1500, but it's not consistent, you know, because after the last 2 years, I was just like kind of here and there. I had a part-time job. I didn't really care. So I was like, you know what? I have money coming in. It's not a big deal. But when you're kind of put in a situation and you're facing reality, yeah, sure, maybe I'm temporarily laid off now, but like, I'm not going to be guaranteed a career later on, like, a position down the road. You know, all corporate businesses, like anything, like most people are in a recession right now. They're going to have to cut back on costs. Not only that, I cannot, like, as much as I love knowledge, but I can't stand going to school. I don't understand the concept of paying thousands and thousands of dollars just to work a 9-to-5 job. And so I've been looking for an outlet, and then I was like, okay, you know what? I closed this, you know, this big client. I brought on like a media buyer. I need to build a foundation, which clearly I had no idea how I was going to do. So I was like, you know what? I know there's one guy out there and I see his commercials all the time. I might as well just try it out. So, you know, signed up for an agency incubator call and spoke to one of the student success managers, so Max. And so thank you, Max. And then he actually sold me coveted agency. So I was like, you know, that's great. And to be honest, like, it's been phenomenal. And in my opinion, I actually truly believe like everything we learn in that course is much more than what I paid for. Like the value is just, to be brutally honest with you, like I've taken so many courses and you know, I'm not gonna lie, I've torrented some of them, and a lot of these courses like you can find online for free for like on YouTube and stuff. But the stuff that you teach us or that we've learned, like so far I've learned in this course, you know, I don't learn anywhere else. And that's what's so valuable about it, especially, you know, learning about like strategic partnerships. I didn't know that. And I was like, wow, we have a network of a bunch of, you know, agencies owners. We can always help each other out. And I love that concept. Or for example, I think another one is like automating my onboarding. Oh my God. I was like, brain fart, like why haven't I thought about this like a long time ago? Like me exchanging emails back and forth with my clients is a huge nightmare. It's like something I dread, and I think that's also a reason why I wasn't so consistent in the last 2 years. So yeah, I mean, and to be brutally honest, like since joining, you know, CPA, I've learned, you know, a lot of things in terms of, you know, learning how to upsell, even though like my background is in sales. I've been in sales for like 5 years. And, you know, the stuff that we were able to learn, I was actually able to upsell my current client, the big cannabis client that I was working with. I was able to upsell them an additional $3,000, adding on social media marketing as well as email automation. So that's one great thing that, you know, I found a lot of success in. Yeah.
So I'm going to respectfully stop you there and say,
Sure.
no more talking about agency incubator, no more talking about copy-paste agency. Obviously you're a student of both. Because this is about you. I want to get into your psyche. I want to get into your mind. I want to talk about your journey, your experience. You know, it's always very flattering when, you know, students on interviews say amazing stuff about the program. But as I said, like, we're here to celebrate your success today. So let's talk about first of all, your client roster at the moment, because you got that one client for $7,000. You brought on a second client two-ish weeks ago, and now this third client. You maybe want to talk a little bit about that, how that lead came about. You know, you mentioned this the SRP, strategic referral partners, and then copy-paste agency. You know, we build those sort of alliances and partnerships, and a lot of people get a lot of clients from each other. So maybe talk about that second client first.
Okay. So, I mean, overall, like I'm a very systematic person. So, you know, prior to all this, like I set expectations like 30, 60, 90, 120, like, and for example, like, 1 month, my main goals was like, at least every single month, I want to bring on at least like 1 to 2 clients. So, you know, signing that first client at the end of March, I was like, okay, it's April. I want to sign another client. So, you know, massive outreaches, you know, I'm sending like maybe 100 to 200 emails within a week. And then at one point, you know, a lot of emails were getting open. Like I have a really high open rate, which is pretty awesome. So like a 40% open rate, and, you know, people respond, but the problem was like, I was having trouble finding qualified leads. Like, for example, people would be interested, but they wouldn't have, their business wasn't in the right, they weren't financially ready to take on an agency, and I found that that became an issue, and I wasn't having qualified leads. So I was like, testing out different forms of outreach, like through Instagram, through Facebook, etc. And then one day I posted it on my personal Instagram, that if anybody was looking for any digital marketing services, feel free to hit me up. I have, I'd be love to share what I can help with, and what Facebook ads and Google ads can do for you. So I actually one of my friends messaged me, and she told me her partner runs a printing company, like a custom printing company. So we hopped on call with them. I was pretty stupid. I did, the call went great and everything. And towards the end, they were closed, but I accidentally kind of let them walk away, because I was like, you know what, you know my friend, I don't have to be too worried. So I kind of just let it be. And then they ended up having doubts the next day. And I was like, oh, I should have made sure everything was taken care of prior to me hopping off. And that was, I would say, one of my big rookie mistakes. And I learned that later on down the road, especially when I'm taking any discovery or consultation calls, to make sure if somebody is interested, and just get their payment then and there, because that's how they basically know, and I know that this is serious. They're ready to get started. So I think that's one of the main things I learned, and I was like, it's a good learning experience. And now later on down the road, I'm not going to make that same mistake. So far, it's been really consistent. I mean, I'm pretty happy with my results so far. $10,000 within 2 months as a new agency owner. I'm pretty, I would say I'm proud of, but I'm still kind of shell shocked that this kind of all happened at once. And not only that, just being able to see myself grow as well alongside the agency, and and basically, be able to speak with all these different business owners, and also realize that you have to be selective of who you choose to work with. You can't just work with anybody, especially, if you're an agency that your record shows that you produce results, but obviously you produce results for a specific niche, etc. So that's one big one.
I was just gonna add to that. Yeah, being an agency owner is a game of chess, not checkers. It's it's a monthly service, and it's a very intimate monthly service as well. Look, you go to production companies, they do a one-off job for you. Maybe you go to some company, even accounting. It's that's not a very intimate sort of a monthly service. Whereas being an agent, to me, being an agency to someone's business, it's almost like being of all the different service providers they have, I think it's the most important one. And you really need to play chess, not checkers with it, because it's not something that you can just sell to anyone. It's not like I don't know, a coaching deal. It's not like if we were here selling 5-hour coaching packages to different business owners and stuff like that, to be honest, you don't really have to be too selective. You basically don't have to be selective at all of who you work with, because you do your 5 hours. It's very clear set expectation. But when you run an agency, it's clear. You should set clear expectations nonetheless. But it's, at the end of the day, you're working with someone, you're working with a business, you're working with their team, month in, month out, and you gotta enjoy it. You gotta produce results, and you guys gotta have a great relationship together. So I totally agree with what you mean. Just being selective, and being able to have the foresight, and kind of see any bumps down the road that may occur.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even touching base on that, all the clients that I currently, my current roster, the individuals I work with, I've actually slowly become friends with them, because in a way, after working with them for so long, it's not just you're trying to help them get results because this is your job. It becomes much more than that. For me, I if my friends are successful, I'm successful too. So why don't I help them as much as I can? So it becomes rather than a mandatory, but it's kind of like a want, something that you want to do and you strive to do. And yeah, it's been phenomenal working with these guys. I honestly have a really, really good group of good set of clients. They're all very, very diligent, and everybody kind of seems to be chasing the same goal. So, I mean, if I can produce for them, you know, I'm going to continue doing my best for them.
So you mentioned something once again, very, very important there, which is becoming friends with your clients. There's two sides to it. For me, there's two sides to it. There's, as terrible as it sounds, there's the strategic side to it. And then there's the, like, your preference in the way you run your business slash agency. It's just a byproduct of kind of the clients that I like to work with a specific kind of client. And usually that kind of client, sometimes on my, so I mean, I've even had on my discovery calls where I've sworn before, and if that offends someone, if that offends someone, it's almost a sure, and I don't aggressively swear, but like I may say shit or I very occasionally say fuck. And if someone's put off by that or offended by that, then we're probably not gonna have a good working relationship because, me and the team, we're very crass. We like to make jokes. We produce incredible results. Maybe that's one of the reasons we get away with this stuff. But, I guess my point is, my clients, I attract the kind of clients, when I'm thinking about the kind of clients and my checklist of what sort of clients that I want, there's the logistical side of things, the way that they run their business. There's some character traits about them. But then kind of way down that list, that final thing is would I have a beer with them? And that's why at the end of the day, a lot of my clients, past and present, end up becoming my friends. And it's incredible. It makes it so much more fulfilling for me. And then, as terrible as it sounds, just from a strategic perspective, it's really hard to fire your friend. Once you lock in that friendship, you've increased the longevity and retention of that partnership quite substantially.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And then the most recent client that we've kind of booked in the discovery call was actually through a strategic referral. And I mean, this is something very, very cool to me because I didn't learn this until I joined agency incubator, and I thought this was such a good tool because it's basically another student from the class had a lead that they couldn't work with because it wasn't their niche, and he was kind of just asking if anybody has worked with anyone in the CBD or cannabis industry, and by coincidence, I had, and he reached out to me, and he was able to kind of send an email and include me in it, and just have me set up a call with that client because they were eager to start and they were eager to get paid traffic going. So yeah, we have a call with them tomorrow, and yeah, hopefully all goes well. I'm pretty confident, and again, great individual. It seems like he seems like exactly my type of client to work with. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's something that you really, I really make it a point in copy-paste agency, especially, is you got to, once you're in copy-paste agency, it's the foot is on the gas when it comes to outreach. It's anyone in copy-paste agency isn't making excuses for themselves anymore on outreach. They realize that primarily until they have logistical issues, which is, if I think about why an agency isn't working, I'd say 70% of the time it's a byproduct of how much outreach they're doing, and that they're just not having enough meetings. Maybe 20% of the time it's a byproduct of logistical or service delivery side of things, and then 10%, some miscellaneous thing. But my point is, everyone in CPA is doing a hell of a lot of outreach, and what that means is you end up getting a hell of a lot of leads, but you can't take on every single lead. And I know a lot of people, I know a lot of agency owners are very wasteful with their leads. So in copy-paste agency, it really is a priority that look, if it doesn't look like they could be a good monthly retainer for you, then you can do a downsell and have a consulting offer and a training offer. Or conversely, if it's genuinely not a niche that you understand, then give it to one of the strategic referral partners in copy-paste agency. And first of all, if for example, let's say you've got appointment setters or you're running ads, you liquidated the cost of that and you receive back some of your ad costs through that referral, because obviously you're getting a kickback, and you've done better by the client because you've been honest with them, and rather than most agency owners who will just take on the client just because, you refer them to an agency that will actually be better suited for them. So yeah, it's super, super awesome. The fact that we've got that network in CPA. And, you know, even this past month, we had 30 to 35 demo calls. I can't take on that many clients. So the amount of, you know, I'm sending tons and tons of leads to the people in CPA. I had one question for you.
Sure.
I know that people watching this will be very taken aback that your first client is $7,000. Like you're okay. One thing I will say is, look, you have actually been you've had an agency. It's just been a little bit more sporadic over the past 2 years. So you aren't necessarily a brand new agency owner, but like from the point in which you took it seriously, kind of your first client was $4,000, which you then upsold for another $3,000. So do you want to just talk about the mechanics of that deal a little?
I think it was, to be brutally honest with you, like this industry, like especially because my client is in cannabis, it's so competitive. And being in Canada, you know, marijuana just got legalized, so you know, a lot of these dispensaries are kind of just like working head in hand, like trying to take up as much market share as they can within Canada. So overall, like I think they were having, like my clients in the beginning, like they're really chill. But they were having a really hard time trusting me. So in the beginning, our retainer was kind of set like that. And it was honestly, like when we were running Google ads for them and stuff, they would kind of go in on their own and change a bunch of these things, like without like telling us. So, or he'd be like, oh, your bid, like you didn't set this bid and stuff. And it caught me and my media buyer off guard because obviously these ads take time to optimize and stuff. And we were basically giving the amount of time for this machine to work itself. So it became really frustrating towards the end. And I think also that we didn't really show our faces when we hopped on call with them. So when we the first, you know, consultation call, I didn't show my face, and I think that was probably like why, even though they signed on to me, like I honestly think it's honestly by luck in the beginning, but I was like, you know what, I gotta, like, this is a big client, like I need to, you know, work something out. I need to get them to trust me, to know that I'm here for them, I'm in it for them, and then kind of go from there. So we jumped off a Zoom call. I finally showed my face. Even the media buyer was there because we wanted to make sure, like, hey, we're here. This is our workflow. This is what we're going to do for you, et cetera, et cetera. And like, these are also some suggestions that, you know, I'm just casually bringing up. For example, like they have a huge email list that I'm aware of. And I think they have like 8,000 emails, but they weren't actively using it. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So, you know, that eventually bridged into another conversation. And that, because since we explained our work process and we explained that we're here for them, it kind of eased them. And they were kind of like, okay, this is somebody who's in it for us. And then, you know, that's when they started asking questions like, what others do you offer? Do you offer like SEO? Do you offer, email marketing, social media, like blah, 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 blah. And then and I think overall, it's just, if you can get your client to trust you, the sky is the limit. Because at the end of the day, like their business is their baby. So they're doing everything they can to protect it. And you're kind of like this stranger that they know they have hired, and they know that, you know, you're here to do a job for them, but they're always like watching from afar. So I knew, like, you know, the most important thing was, hey, like, let's sit down, let's talk about workflow, let's talk about what your expectations are, what my expectations are, and then let's go from there. And, you know, since that conversation, like, I can personally tell you, like, I've just gotten so close with both the owners that, like, you know, it's kind of bad. Like, randomly we'll talk about the business at 2 a.m. because I'm like super excited. And I actually had to get like a second phone because I couldn't control myself anymore. But yeah, I think that's one of the most important things, just being able to build that trust and just, you know, sit down, you know, take the time, especially if it's like, you know, it's going to be a long-term client, put in the extra effort. Even just like, for example, even if you're not offering it as a service, just like a suggestion here and there, you know, for example, telling them what they can do better in terms of advertising or, you know, the copywriting, et cetera, just like the little minor things, they'll appreciate it. And it becomes easier for you to upsell. And the best part about this is it becomes easier for referrals. And especially, you know, my client being in this industry, I have no doubt that they will refer, you know, more clients in the same industry, right? So yeah.
Amazing. Well, yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for me on my end with the questions. Yeah, just what, isn't it like crazy time for you right now?
It's like 12:30.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh, damn. Well, I appreciate you staying up. Or maybe you're not also you still go to bed in like 2 hours.
I do.
Either all right, well, either way, I appreciate you you coming on and sharing some of your wisdom.
Thanks.